and welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, April 18th, 2020. How's everybody doing?
Excellent,
No
thank you.
bad.
Hello, everyone.
Doing well.
All good,
Fantastic.
Very
Doing
good.
great.
We're officially open for business. The light is on, so we are ready to go. All right, we got a full house already. This is awesome. I love it. This week, we are still trying out Q4OS.
Oops.
We are going to talk about Q4OS for a little bit. Going to talk about some distro challenge changes coming up. And we're also probably get into all kinds of other different topics that we'll talk about. But first, we are going to have a little bit of conversation on Q4OS. But I wanted to give everybody an update on an email we got again from Marnesha, who asked us originally to try out Q4OS. So the original reason we tried out Q4OS. Okay. Who's not muted? Really? I love it. Hold on. Let me find it.
Sorry.
Okay. So the original reason we tried out Q4OS was because we received an email asking us to try it out for the immigration office. And let me get the email out real quick. For the latest email that we have says, please share with everyone, in addition to the Department of Immigration, other departments are now interested in trying Q4OS. So that was the original reason we tried it. But now, after watching last week's reviews, all departments are interested in moving away from Windows XP to a Linux distro as soon as possible. So please thank everyone for us. So I do want to thank all of you guys who tried Q4OS, everybody out in watching in YouTube that tried Q4OS, because it was for a reason, and it was to try to help people out. With that, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on Q4OS this week, because, again, there will be changes coming to the distro challenge, and we got to talk about that. But let's go through it. Does anybody want to jump in? I don't think we're going to go down the line or down the list of everybody. Does anybody want to add to what they talked about last week with Q4OS?
I'll go first since I wasn't here last week. Basically I found that it's once it's up and running, it seems to be fine. I was not able to get the Trinity to run. It would just sit there with a black screen, but that's fine and dandy. Plasma works fine. I definitely am interested in playing around with it on my Raspberry Pi. I did not get a chance to do it this week, but I'll probably do that on offline. Other than that, trying to boot it is a chore on this particular machine, but it's the computer, not the operating system. So I really can't fault it with that. Other than that, it's strong, it's stable. I like it. Anything else past that, I'd have to take by an individual case by case basis. So if anybody has any questions.
All right. Dave Jones, you wanted to go?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that last week I had tried the Trinity desktop, and it was like a blast from the past. You know, Windows 98 through XP. It had a little bit of everything it looked like. But this week I tried the Plasma version, and I have to say I was really impressed. I really liked the Plasma version. It looked like standard Debian. It made it much more modern. And I didn't really look to see if there was any issues with using up any more hardware resources or anything like that. But the Plasma version, I was really, really impressed with.
Right. Well, I think one thing we have to consider is for this specific instance that they're talking about, especially with them running XP now, I'm sure they want to have the footprint low for people coming in and being blasted with something new. So they want to keep it, I guess, I would want to keep it as similar to looking as to Windows as possible so that people don't get confused. And I think either way you go, whether you go with the Trinity desktop, which has, okay, so it comes with themes with it, but you can download, there's 4 extra themes that go with it. It's a pack that you can get from the Q4OS website. And these themes on there are absolutely amazing if you want it to look like a specific thing. Like if you want it to look like XP, they have a Windows 7 theme, they have a Windows 10 theme. If you want it to look like that, those themes are a must if that's what you're going for. I think there are also other themes out there, Plasma-wise, that would be able to have some of a similar look. But I don't know how important that is. I think more so, I think they're going for being able to implement them and then the support end of it, trying to get a good deal as far as saving money without having to pay an exorbitant amount of money for that actual support. So I think there's a couple of reasons why they're going for it. DJ, you did a video on Q4OS?
Yes, I did. And also went back and looked up a couple of the problems that I had discovered during the installation. So my overall impression was it has a very stock Debian feel, and of course Q4OS has their own repos that they provide in order to keep the desktop software updated more so than Debian, of course, would. So I really like that aspect of it. I think the only thing having worked in governmental circles for a while, the only thing I would be a little bit concerned about is most government entities don't know about this one, because I obviously haven't talked to them, but most of them would need about 5 to 10 years of viability from the OS. So my concern with a company of this size, would they be able to support this company, this entity for that long of a time? And then, of course, there's no information on their site about support, when it's available, how much it's going to cost. I did notice that there was quite a bit of custom code in the Q4OS, and I assume that's the UIs that come up to support building the system up and so forth. And the one bug that I ran into was if I installed the full desktop configuration off of their menus, everything was fine. But if I installed the what they call the initial desktop, which is just a baseline setup with no applications, it would show that I was running Trinity, which I wasn't. I was running Plasma. So it was just, but I'm not sure if there was some libraries or something that got copied out there that caused it to flip like that, but that's a little concerning. The other thing is Java is installed. There's a lot of libraries that have been known to have some security issues in the past. So I would assume there would have to be some kind of security look into this, into their baseline beyond a normal Debian release, because of what gets installed. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's good. I wouldn't have any problems with it. But one thing I would wonder about, I did a little calculation on Windows support over 3 years, about $5,000. Most of the other Linux distros are about twice that. So I hope Q4OS can do better than the other two guys.
Right.
Or they won't be replacing anything.
Well, do you see them running into any issues? I mean, besides the amount of
normal
years,
Linux ones,
besides the normal Linux ones, or besides the maybe the amount of years that because we don't know how much support it would be.
Debian in government circles has a large following. So I mean, think they already have. I don't know what country this is, but at least here in the U.S., Debian has a strong following. So as far as the security issues, there's already approval for Debian to run in those circles up to the highest levels of secrecy. So that should not be a problem. I don't see any issue with the OS itself, other than there are some packages on here that I would be worried about if I was installing this. But that's normal. I mean, that's just normal stuff,
right,
that you have to do, right?
So this would be actually originally it was for the Department of Immigration for Jamaica, and
Okay.
now it's other entities in the government offices there that are looking at this. So I'm not exactly sure how many that is, but either way, they're grateful for us looking at it. So,
and I would imagine that they're going to be doing their own due diligence anyway. They just wanted, I think, a bird's eye view from a geek's aspect of how this runs. And one of the things that's always impressed me with Q4 OS ever since I've been trying it is they're not afraid to do something away from the norm. Because right from day one, when I first started to try it, one of the first things you're presented with is, oh, we notice you've got an NVIDIA driver. Do you want us to install the drivers? And this was way before it became a thing where Ubuntu came along and said, you know what, this is one of the most popular video cards. Let's just put the drivers in there from day one. These guys were doing it from ages. And the other thing I noticed as well was I installed it on my, what I class to be my older laptop. So I downloaded the Trinity version and went to install it. And it said, oh, we noticed that you're running a laptop which would be good enough to use Plasma. Would you like to install that version instead? And I thought, well, hang on a minute, I've just downloaded the Trinity version. How are they telling me that they can put Plasma on it? So I said no, took it out, put the Plasma one in, and it said the same thing. We noticed. So to me, there was no difference between the Plasma version I downloaded and the Trinity version I downloaded. They were able to ascertain that my machine was sufficient to run to run Plasma, and then just install it. And it worked perfectly well on my older i5 laptop. Come to put it on the RTX 2080 Ti, nothing I did could get it to install. So I had to go then to the latest beta version. And because it's beta, I ran into a few problems. I'm not going to discuss them there because it was beta. So overall, generally, I've always liked Q4 OS. I think it's been a good, solid, reliable distribution if you don't mind some of its quirks that everybody's mentioned before. So as long as they do their due diligence and don't just look at Q4 OS, but think of a couple of other distributions to have a look at, I don't think they can go wrong, really, at the end of the day.
Yep. All right. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I've installed the Plasma version, and I thought I'd play around with that for a while. I've played around with it for a little bit this week, and I'm actually impressed with the speed of the Plasma version, and the memory footprint is just really low. And I don't know how they achieved that, but it's probably one of the snappiest Plasma versions I've used. So it's and of course Plasma's modern, looks more up to date than the Trinity version, I have to say. But the Trinity also, I have to say, has, like you said, Rocco, the advantages of putting some of the themes in, which may bring back some of the familiarity that some of the people within the business establishment might like to have. But like I said last week, something a little bit different might bring them around to using it accordingly to what it is, rather than thinking that it is an XP or so forth. So
I think there's two trains of thoughts, and it depends. It's up to them really what they choose to go with. So anybody else would like to talk about Q4 OS? Alan, do you have any words of wisdom for them at all in this whole endeavor of trying to switch to Linux or get support or anything like that?
I'm not involved in corporate deployments, so I'm not sure. I do have words of wisdom for them, so I would just be no. Is the short answer.
Dig it. All right. With that, I think we are going to move on, and we're going to go into. It's an easy segue into changes for the distro challenges. So, last week on Biddle Europe, was it Biddle Europe or Biddle? Regular Biddle, one or the other, we ended up talking about the distro challenges and trying out all of these distros, and how it, sometimes you lose that excitement to try out all these new things and change everything and test them out. So we are going to, for the upcoming Ubuntu releases, we are going to try them just like we normally try them. We're going to try each one for a week, each flavor, and run through that. After that, we may cut down on the distro challenge segment, or maybe relax it to the point of it may not even be a segment. So the idea is, no matter how many times I say it, no matter how many times I say, hey, you don't have to do the distro challenge to come in, there's still a lot of people that feel that they have to try to do the distro challenge to come in. Or they feel like we'll call on them and they don't really have nothing to say, so they'd just rather not come in. And I don't really want it to be that way. And the distro challenges, even though we cut them back, originally we didn't have a time limit. We just talked for however long we talked about it. We cut it down to the first hour, but we always seem to go over that hour anyway. So, and a lot of times it may be a distro that half of us don't want to try. And that it may be even a distro that half of the people watching don't even want to talk about. So, long story short, we're going to try to just have it be just what BDL was intended to be about, and that is just us getting together and talking about Linux and whatever subject we bring up in that time. That's great. Now, we may still try out a distro, but it won't be a structured format of we're trying this distro for 2 weeks and we're going to go down the list of everybody. If we happen to try a distro, I may throw it out there. Do you guys want to talk about it? But it won't be a structured thing after the Ubuntu's. Now, with the Ubuntu's coming out, I don't know. Like, we'll have to play it by ear, because I know that there's a ton of excitement around all of the flavors coming out, and I myself want to talk about them. So I think for the Ubuntu releases, we will keep it somewhat similar, but after that, we'll just kind of like ease off of it and, you know, just let it be us getting together and talking about Linux rather than kind of alienating certain people out of it.
Because in that way as well, you can also say, hey, have you tried this new so-and-so that I tried this week? Has anybody else had any experience with? And then you can talk about X, Y, Z for 15 minutes or whatever. So distros will come out anyway, as we all naturally have a tendency to try some of the new things. Well, I say we all, you guys know who you are, and we all know who we are, who just can't stop doing it. But yeah, it will come out naturally in the conversation.
Yep. So what do you guys think?
Gets a big thumbs up for me.
I'm cool with that.
I kind of
sounds okay.
I kind of looked at the distro challenges as motivation to look at something different and new. That's all I really have to say about it.
It can be a motivation for everybody, but like I said, we can do that on our own without having some formatted structure to do that with. We can still look at distros. I can still tell you at the end of the show that I'm going to be checking out this distro this week. You know,
if you
whatever.
want, Dan, I can always find distros for you to try.
Yeah, but then we're not all on the same page discussing the ins and outs of the same thing.
Go ahead, Alan.
I think possibly it might have felt to some people like the distro challenge became a bit of a chore.
Yes.
Like it was something, you know, a piece of work that you had to do every week over and over again. And trying to come up with new things to say about a distro, which is basically the same bunch of software packages as every other distro, but with slightly different look and feel, and maybe a few. I mean, Q4OS was very different. Like
yes.
that's a an exception to the rule. But I think if people have what they've been playing with this week, or I saw there was a version of this that came out, I'd like to talk about it for 10 minutes. If they ping you ahead of time, it feels like you could find 10 minutes for them to talk about what was new and interesting. And actually, most of the other people in the room won't have played with that thing. And so they'll naturally want to ask questions and the conversation will flow, I guess.
Yep. And that's what I want it to be. I just want it to be just like a normal conversation like we would have if we were all in a room together.
I think
we need to address the real problem here, which is that Tony's going to have a real problem installing a new version of Linux in 15 seconds instead of half an hour. And that's a real tragedy.
No, Tony can still install distros before the show's over. We just won't know what they are. So he'll have to let
And
us
it
know.
won't be a tragedy. It will be a challenge. So he'll still have the challenge.
And I won't get it wrong because it'll be whatever I want it to be.
There you go.
Excellent.
Well, so many times I went and I wanted to try out something specific. Like, for example, I'll give you just an example. I wanted to try out the new menu that Ubuntu Budgie had. So I installed Ubuntu Budgie on my test machine, and I was trying it out. Long story short, I messed it up, and I was going to reinstall that. But we had a distro challenge too, and I had limited time and whatever. I only have so much time to do that in, so I had to put Ubuntu Budgie on hold so I could try out the distro that I was testing. And it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be, like Alan said, like a chore, like you have to do this. So it'll just be an easygoing, what have you been up to lately?
I mean, we could probably throw in a challenge every now and then, something that's maybe worthwhile, but definitely I think the Ubuntus are worthwhile looking at.
Yep.
I'd have to say. And
well, especially as not to put pressure on them, but I think 2004 is going to be the next, for me, great Ubuntu. The last great Ubuntu for me was 14. The 14 series, and it was just one of the
606 or something like
that. No. Because no. If you go back to 606 days, I was still in the flame of mind. What is this geeky pile of rubbish that someone's chucked at me? I can't get anything to it. And then all of a sudden, 1404 dropped. Bingo! You suddenly had all of the Ubuntus working. You had all of the spin-offs where people have made different variations, like Voyager OS and all the rest of it, and they all just clicked and dropped into place. So for me, 1404 became an excellent distribution that none of the other Ubuntus, even 1608 or 18, or 1604 or 1804, have come close to touching yet. But 2004, I got involved very, very early with one of the budgie beaters. And right from day one, it just went click and it worked. So I think this is going to be another great year for Linux, and people coming new into it will just drop into a 2004 version and away they go.
Well, with that said, we're not going to be putting on a distro challenge for this week because obviously, it's going to be a free week. The next distro challenge, or the next distro that we look at, how's that? The next distro we look at is going to be the main Ubuntu flavor. That'll be this Saturday after it releases. So that's what we'll do.
So Rocco, my question is,
yes,
in about 6 months, can I complain that we don't do distro challenges? Is that going to be allowed?
You can very well complain that we don't do distro challenges. I can't promise that we will ever go back to doing distro challenges, but
so often we'll do it.
All right, I just want to put out there that, Colin, I don't want to see any Marmite challenges.
No, that's Vegemite.
It's Vegemite.
And none of those, thanks. I'm good without that.
Fermented yeast. Ugh.
Just ask Derek. He'll be involved in that.
On toast, it's yummy.
Oh.
I would like to float the idea that Cubicle Nate should continue to talk about OpenSUSE as much as he currently does.
Well, it'd be kind of impossible for him to do it more.
Is that including
you're
Zipper?
so wrong, Dave.
Is that Zipper?
Zipper. You're pronouncing it right,
Zipper. Whatever you want to call it. I understand. I can adjust with your, understanding your.
I love it.
Accent.
Joshua, you got your hand up.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be here again. Just a few questions, of course. Eventually we will go back to jumping now and then, but will we also try to get more of a different style in terms of what type of distros we try out, and maybe go a little more complex, like something like a NetBoot, or something that's more terminal based, like Arch Linux?
No.
Well, I think.
Sorry, been there, seen it, done it. That was the whole point. We don't want that chore. And when you go for that type of challenge, you've got 28 people in here, 26 people go, oh, really? Don't want to do that. It's just too complex, too complicated, and that's why Rocco has decided we're going to move away from those sort of things.
Well, with that said, we did do an Arch Challenge. I mean, it's not like we never did anything that was hard. And
then
there
we
was
had
other
some
ones.
of these random ones as well.
Yeah, we had like Clear Linux and a couple of the other rando ones that we had, cubes. So it's not like we have always stuck to the. But we have been accused of that. We have been accused of being Ubuntu fanboys. So just saying, throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea because it's becoming a thing where it's forced. It's happening every week. We should definitely settle down. And I'm going to step out now. See you guys later.
See you, Joshua.
Hi, Josh.
All right. Anybody else want to get in on that?
So show's finished then.
There you go. That's it. That's all we got. I mean, we got nothing else.
We got to bed early. Yay!
No, if you guys want to continue that conversation of what we were talking about, because I don't think Eric quite got across his, and I was hoping he was going to be here. He said he's going to be late, but I was hoping he was going to be here for this specific conversation because I think he felt that he didn't get his whole point across when he was talking about the lack of excitement for doing the distro challenge or trying something new. But either way, if you guys are good with that, we'll move on.
I know. I got
topic.
what he meant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got perfectly what he meant.
Well, I think all of us get to that point at some point. Some of us are still there, but I go in spurts. So I'll go for a while where I don't really want to try out anything new. I'm just happy doing what I got to do. I only got limited time, blah, blah, blah. But then there's that time that, I just get into a spurt where, man, I want to try all of the new, like, for example, the Ubuntu flavors. That's one of those things where I really do want to try all of them out just to see what all of them have done for this new release. So I don't know how it is for everybody else.
Well, it's like the other week, I think I said that I'm done with the whole distro hopping thing. And you know me, I've got a ridiculous machine here with umpteen different hard disks and 45 different parts. No, I've got 2 OSs on here now. One we won't talk about, and in fact 3. One we won't talk about, and then my favourite, Peppermint and MX. So that's it. I've just got the 3. I've got no other partitions ready to use. So when I come to test the Ubuntus, I'm going to have to actually make a hard disk available for it, because you do get past that point. I always used to love, right, let's get this installed, let's see how this is different, let's see how this is working. And I loved going through the install process, see how easy it was. And then there just came this point when I thought, I've got to do all this again to get back to where I was 10 minutes ago. If I hadn't blasted the one before, I could have been doing something now instead of installing it. So yeah, we all get there. But then, like you said, the Ubuntus came along and the betas came out, and I was like, yay, let's have a little try of this. So it goes in fits and spurts, but I think it's going to be much, much better getting back to the conversations we had, and then a distro comes out and somebody says, oh, I tried that. What do you think of this?
Yep.
It's going to be a much, much better format.
My thing with the Ubuntus is there's so many of them, and it's like we rode through all of them last time, and it feels like we just got done doing them.
Well, that's why.
This time, I think I'm just going to pick 2 and do them only.
Well, that's why we went to 1 week for the Ubuntus, because you're right. I mean, if you do 2 weeks for every flavor, I mean, that takes up a couple months. So it's like, nah, we can't do that.
I mean, everyone could do a different flavor. Well, not quite everyone, but I mean, if you all had a spread and some people did one flavor and some people did a different one, then you get a discussion about what's different between them.
Oh, we'll have teams?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Well, the one thing I will miss about the distro challenges is actually having the developers come on and talk about that. And if we don't have it in a semi-structured format, that probably won't happen. So if we're not all trying, say, Ubuntu out, Alan just won't show up. That's just as simple as that, right?
Nah, he will.
Rocco, are you trying Ubuntu right now, today,
No,
this week? And yet I'm here.
I've done my Ubuntu video already.
I don't know.
Look, Alan gave
I only use Ubuntu that day, so I don't know about you guys. I'm happy where I am.
Is that
but
the next Alan meme that's going to go all around Telegram? Him hopping off out of his chair instead of going
flouncing off.
The flounce. Yeah.
Well, I had a situation during the week, Rocco, whereas I've got a laptop here. There's a person at work, a work colleague, his daughter, they're running Linux on all their machines that they asked me to put Linux on all of them. They're happy with it. They're running Linux Mint. But she's going to secondary school. She needs Windows for a certain application. So she needs the tool to get the job done. So I've dual booted Windows 10 with Linux Mint. And I made a video on that about how to make sure that Windows does not affect that Linux Mint install at all. So, and that seems to be running pretty well at the moment. So that was interesting. I like to do those type of videos. It's good.
Well, I actually got a comment, or not a comment, a message from a guy in Discord that I used to play Call of Duty with years ago, like probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. And he said to me, hey, can I chat with you one of these nights about Linux? Because I'm looking to get into it, and I just wanted to pick your brain about it. And I'm like, yeah, anytime, dude. So we haven't had that conversation yet, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Barbara?
Yeah, what I was going to say is that I think the whole thing with the distro challenge is, okay, I'm not a distro hopper. We all know that. My idea of distro hopping is use my Mac for a while. Yes, there, I said it. And I don't know, I think that it became too much of a chore, too much of, oh, I've got to do this. And it got to a point that if you didn't do anything, if you didn't check out a distro, you sat here for the 2 hours and basically you had nothing to input. You had no, I don't know, it kind of got to be a drag. Once in a while it was fun, but I really, it got to be a drag.
I agree, Barb. I agree.
So,
and it wasn't
I like
meant to
this.
do that. It wasn't
No,
meant
but
to do that, but
I mean, at first it was fun until I had that one problem with Antergos, and I said, forget that. And, but I don't know, I think we do need to go back to the way it was originally, which was just discussing Linux.
whatever we wanted to discuss.
Yes.
So there you go.
Mhm.
Perfect opening for anybody who wants to bring up what they want to bring up, because I do have a couple things I want to bring up, but open it up.
One thing that I've always found, especially with the district challenge, is my challenge was getting it running. And it's become so routine now that it doesn't provide any kind of a challenge. And it comes down to which package managers do I like best, and that's really all that I see the difference as far as different distros. What I'd like to do is be able to go back and find out the philosophy. Why did you fork off of Debian, or what's the what are you trying to highlight or emphasize, or something like that? That's something I find missing.
And you actually bring up a good point, Chris, because I think originally people started to misinterpret the distro challenge. It wasn't that it was going to be a challenging distro to use or to install or work with. It was just meant to be, well, we're going to challenge each other to try and use just this distro for a week. Not the installation of that distro was challenging, but it became that. And we had a lot of comments where people went, well, what's challenging about installing Ubuntu? Anybody can do it. But that wasn't, for me, the point of the challenge. The original challenge, I think, was, okay, let's take a distro and see if everybody can use it for a week. Not was it easy to install, pick holes in it, and can you come out of your comfort zone with your favorite Mate, let's say for argument's sake, and can you live with XFCE for a week? That for me was where the original challenges came from.
Yeah, it's not like throwing down the gauntlet. Verily, good sir, I challenge you to
I
use
tried
Arch
to-
Linux.
Yes.
I tried to live in them for at least a week and make sure I could do everything I wanted to with each distro.
Yep. So the idea is it for this to be fun, not a chore. So. All right. So again, the Ubuntus are coming out, and I know that people have done, live streams at them about some of them.
Yeah. Well, sort of. Yeah.
Throwing you under the bus. Go ahead.
Appreciate it. No, actually, so my live stream wasn't Ubuntu. It was actually Pop, but
Based
similar.
on Ubuntu.
Based on Ubuntu, yeah, but not Ubuntu. Yeah.
Right.
I've used the latest 2004. It's pretty darn good, guys. If you like GNOME, if you don't like GNOME, then I can't help you. But or more specifically, you can't be helped. But
wow,
no, it's pretty great. Like the performance
challenge
is
accepted.
That was low.
performance is spectacular. Like it's pretty reliable, even from like the pre-beta days. It's pretty reliable. Aside from certain bugs here and there, but that's to be expected. It's a pretty great experience. And on the vanilla Ubuntu, like they built the snaps in quite tightly, which I'm okay with. But they do offer in like the software center, they offer like a drop down for selecting the deb package if it's available and things. So it's not like they're not forcing snaps down your throat, guys. Like you can install the deb if you want. It's all good, man. But a lot of times it's just easier to install the snap, to be honest. Like it's cleaner, it's less cumbersome if you want to remove it later, and it's just pretty good.
Again, that's a good point, Adam, because I think that's something that's always confused me. Who blindly goes into a piece of software and goes, "Oh, give me Discord, yeah, that'll do, install it." Hang on a minute, you just check for a Discord and there's two of them there. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is one was a snap and one was a normal package. So surely you just don't pick the first one and click install. You go and have a look at what it is you're actually installing. So
You
I
would
just
hope
don't get
so.
it.
You'd hope so.
I think maybe you're bestowing far too much intelligence on some of our users. Like, I love our users to bits, but a lot of them will just go, Discord, and just press the button. They're not it's not like a wine connoisseur who's reading the label and seeing the origin of the grapes and what ground was it grown in. It's just, I want that one, and they just press the button.
Is that why you put your snap on the top?
Yeah, partly. Yeah. It's because it's better. That's why.
Yeah, but I think that's actually what most people do. They go, "Oh, okay, that's what I want." They don't even bother to see that there are two of them. I mean,
Right.
I'm one of those because maybe I know more of what I'm doing. I'm not your typical user. I'll see what's the difference, and then decide on that.
Yeah,
There's
it makes sense when you think about search engine results, which is what people mostly end up with, right? Like they search on Google, odds are the first or maybe second, like the top result is usually what they want. So if they search for an app in an app store, the top result is usually what they want, as long as it's not an ad.
And if they're doing like a Google search or whatever, how often do people go to the second page?
Yeah,
it's that
almost
same
never.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And to
they
touch
don't.
on that, like especially in app stores, we see examples of like third-party clients that aren't quote unquote official get a lot of popularity simply because they're put first as an ad. Like they see that it says a word that they're looking for and they click it because that's the first result. And that's, I think, why part of why Telegram had a lot of issues recently with like third-party clients, and there were some privacy concerns because they were just kind of provided as an option and people just used them.
Right, and people take open source software like LibreOffice, and you do a search on most search engines, you'll find there's somebody else who's got an ad placed near the top that takes you through their website in order to get a download of LibreOffice, and not through to LibreOffice where you could donate and support the project. And I would certainly say that the whole Ubuntu Software Center store could do with some improvements. There's lots of things like that whole ranking thing. It needs improvement. The presentation of the applications needs improvement. And this is part of the reason why it's now a snap, is because when it's a snap, we can iterate on it much faster. We can change things in it, push it to the snap store, and people get the new version straight away. And so the goal is, over the course of, the however many years that 2004 exists, that those things that are snaps, and I know not everyone likes them, but it gives us the ability to move faster on them and change them for the better over time. That's the goal anyway.
Yeah, dude, snaps are
Alan,
great.
Alan, oh, pardon me. I was just over on the Ubuntu page and noticed that the Ubuntu server, the latest one, is 1910. I don't know. Is that just because the server packages are not updated as much, or?
Well, 2004 is not out yet, so that page will get updated on sometime Thursday afternoon, evening this week, and when it is, then yeah, it'll appear on there.
Okay, just curious.
Yes, good question.
Well,
so there was one thing that I noted in Ubuntu, and it seems to carry on into a lot of other Ubuntu-based distros. I kind of understand the functionality, but it's annoying at times. So by default in the settings for Pulse, you have a setting where if you plug in a USB like microphone or headphone thing, it will switch to that device, right? And that makes sense given that you plug in like a headset, right? But like in my case, I have a USB microphone, but my headphones are not connected to that microphone, even though it has a headphone port, right? So then what happens is whenever I reboot the machine, it comes back with, it thinks my headphones are coming out of my mic because it thinks it got plugged in, right? That's annoying, but that's not, I don't know, that seems like an edge case, right? Like it's not like it's.
Well, I think that's a Pulse issue, not Ubuntu, is it not, Alan?
Yeah, it's a Pulse configuration issue. It's not specifically like a Pulse inherent thing.
It is a
yeah.
pain. I have the same problem. Whenever I put my laptop in a docking station, I have a mixer and the webcam, and these are audio devices. The webcam is an audio device, and whenever I jump on Zoom for this, for some reason, the webcam is chosen as the audio device, despite me having, a microphone that would probably be a better choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be great to improve that. I don't know where that bug lies, and
I'm not entirely sure
I
it's
know
a
that,
bug though. Like, I mean, it seems intentional. I mean, if you have a customer that plugs in like a USB headset, you don't want them to have to go in the settings to change it, right? They just kind of expect it. Like, I plugged it in, I should be able to hear things.
But I think there could be some intelligence there, where like if you've done a clean install of your operating system and you've never touched any settings, and probably there's only one microphone on your system, and that's the one that's built in, like a laptop, right? And you plug a headset in, it makes sense that, well, they've plugged a headset in, they probably want to use it. Logically speaking, from a human behavior point of view, that's probably what they want to do, right? But if every time you plug your headset in, the very next thing you do is choose another audio device, then it would be nice if it kind of knew that, was like, you know what, every time I choose that audio device, he chooses something else. I think I should stop doing
How do
that,
I mute my mic?
because that kind of annoys him. So I don't know. I think maybe that would be nice.
The other thing
you
I
guys
think, you go on, Thomas.
Are you guys having this issue specifically on 2004 or on just Ubuntu in general?
No, just forever.
Okay,
Linux forever.
Okay, because on my system specifically, I have the internal microphone and speakers on my laptop, but I also have a pair of earbuds. I have the microphone in my webcam, the microphone that's out separate from all of that. I have all this plugged in simultaneously, and it's defaulting to earbuds or headset because the way my laptop's set up, they are kind of registered both as built-in analog audio stuff. And the external microphone, it defaults to even when I reboot. So I don't know if I've actually done something that fixes this and just didn't know it, or
Well, if you
it's
have,
just
please tell me, because one of the most frustrating things that I have is I've got ridiculous monitors. So I will change resolutions. So just because I have changed resolution doesn't mean I want to change from my 5.1 surround sound speaker to my tinny little 2-inch HDMI speakers, which it
Yeah.
does constantly. And I've got 3 monitors here. So it sort of goes, oh, today we're going to pick that one, and then tomorrow it's going to be that one. And then you've just changed resolution again. So we'll have, oh, and then let's use the one that's in your microphone, but I haven't got headphones plugged into it. So now I can't hear anything until I've gone through the 42 devices that it thinks I've got. And I go and pick my default again. And the most frustrating thing is I'll go in and go, disable, 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 just leave my 2. Change resolution, and they're all enabled again.
Yep.
Madness.
Yep.
Didn't anyone invite Simon for this conversation, or?
Poor Simon.
You
He's
know,
just...
send him a message. Don't worry
I
about it.
haven't
I was
seen
going
him
to talk.
in ages.
I know what
Audio-
Zeb's talking about because mine NVIDIA graphics card too, even though I don't have speakers on my monitor and stuff like that, it'll always want to default and turn the audio on for the display ports.
Yep. What were you going to say, Nate?
So I have kind of a convoluted setup, and the way I mistreat my laptop, it's constantly getting different audio devices, mics, and speakers, and it seems to remember my preference. I'm using Plasma, but like so when I'm docked, it will always it'll because I set it as default to use this microphone here. It always uses this microphone, and then because I selected the default, and then when I have a USB like a Bluetooth speaker connect, it will always jump to that Bluetooth, like these headphones, it'll always jump to that. Sometimes I'll have to, like if the stream is already streaming audio, it won't necessarily switch over all the time. But if it's a new audio stream taking control, it always switches the new one to the new device. So I don't know if that's a KDE thing or if that's like how they tweak, what do they do with Pulse?
Is it an open source magic? Do they do anything to the Pulse thing that you know of? Or is it
KDE
just
has an additional layer on top that helps control like specific device preferences. So there's 2 separate layers to that. One is the default device, and then one is like a force switch to default. So when you set a device to your default, it basically creates a little entry in a config somewhere. I don't know where they put their configs these days. And it says like, when this is plugged in, we just switch to that. But it doesn't always force existing streams because that's technically a separate setting. So new streams go there because it's considered the default device, but it doesn't force existing audio streams because I don't know if you've ever right-clicked on a sound device and it says like force playback through this device, and then the other one just says make default. So those are the kind of 2 toggles there.
What version are you using?
Am I? I use OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. So whatever 5.18.
Your microphone's pretty muffled. Is that just me? I'm not sure if my
your
audio.
microphone's really hot, John? Actually, you might need to turn it down a tad.
Yours is a little bit, Nate, a little bit muffled.
Is this better? Is this better?
That's better.
Be quiet.
John.
I can turn it up.
Bad.
So what were you going to say, John?
No, I was just wondering what version he's using.
Which version of what? Plasma or Pulse Audio or?
The Plasma.
It's 5.18.
Okay.
Well, I've always had sound issues, regardless of whether it was Plasma or not, with just the things you guys are talking about, with picking up, monitor audios that I would never use anyway, that don't even have like speakers. So I can relate to all of that frustration, but. All right. So I got a question for you guys. So when I set up a new system, and like, for example, if I set up one of the family computers, the first thing I end up doing is copying over files that they need. Some of those files include email files. And I don't have to do this when I do a new install because I use IMAP for my emails, and I use the web clients for the particular email services. But I guess my question to you guys is, do you guys rely on an email program like Thunderbird? And if so, what do you guys use as far as IMAP, or does anybody even use POP3 anymore?
I actually suggest using POP3 because the difference between the two is IMAP, it's working specifically with the server, whereas POP3 will download those files. So I do prefer to use POP3. That way, if I need to, if I happen to not have internet, which as a scout is actually very common because you'll be out in the wilderness, no cell service, no Wi-Fi. And, that way I can at least look at my emails if I need to refer back to something.
Pop for me too.
And me.
I use IMAP through Thunderbird, and even if I'm offline for some reason, as long as it has already checked it, it's on my system. It
just downloaded the headers, yeah.
Right. No, it downloads the message. It just won't erase the message off their server until I tell it to. The problem I have with POP is if it comes down off their server onto my machine, and then I'm in my truck with my laptop and I want to reference that email, I can't get to it because it's on my desktop.
Right.
That's why I stick with IMAP and not POP.
Oh no, you can though, because it's then for me, especially with Google, it's in a folder called all emails. It might not be in your current inbox, but it would have copied a copy into all emails. At least that's what I find with my Google.
That may work for Google, but not for my other email accounts that aren't Google.
Have you guys ever just tried using like web browser Gmail?
Never. No.
No way.
Not since AOL.
I use web browser Gmail, but for my Drugger OS specific emails, I use Thunderbird.
I use both. And I use that other thing on the other OS that we don't talk about. Only because I've got, I'm like this closet person who hoards stuff. I don't know why, because they don't work. I've got emails from 2007.
Well, doesn't that just kind of complicate things? Like,
No.
Just keep your email.
Not
in one
really.
place,
Sometimes them emails are receipts for things you've purchased, and maybe you want to purchase them again, and you need to dig up that receipt so you can order it again.
Well, I mean, there's a search feature in the Gmail application on the web browser, so you could search up that product that you bought, and your receipt will come up.
But isn't that the beauty of Linux and PCs in general? Everybody can choose the method that suits their way of working.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
Now, what I
don't
do
use one in a way.
is I use POP. I do, use the POP server.
And it freezes on her.
See, you should use
Barbara
IMAP.
Harris, everything froze.
That's because her internet's busy downloading POP email.
That's karma for saying you use POP.
No, it's really quick. It's not a big deal.
No, you froze, Barbara, if you didn't know.
Huh?
Barbara, you
You
froze.
froze for about 20 seconds.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that tropical breeze.
Yeah, we didn't get any of that.
I can get rid of that, huh?
We didn't get any of what you said, Barb. So
Okay. I use Thunderbird and I use POP Mail for everything. I don't use Gmail at all. I don't even have it. So what I do is I have one machine that is what I'll call my main machine, my main laptop. That one in the evening sometime or whatever, and sometimes I only do it maybe once a week. I will download all my email. Otherwise, whatever laptop I'm using, I download it onto my machine, but
That
I
was
leave
really
it on the
funny.
server. What?
The fact.
Whoops.
Yes, you can, using POP accounts, choose to leave it on the server.
Yes.
I just prefer to sync everything in real time.
But it's like whatever works.
Right.
That's the thing.
I
That
agree.
works for me.
I have a
and-
suggestion.
What?
So if the concern is access to email on other machines and this and that, like especially if you're in the same household or on the same network, or even if you're not, you could always put it on like one particular machine that's always connected and just have that linked to.
Hello, Dorothy.
What?
Let me try to fix my mic here. Yeah, Barbara, where are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm actually I'm in upstate New York.
Definitely does
It's
not look like that.
No,
That isn't.
Isn't the weather great there?
That doesn't look like New
you're
York.
kidding.
What?
We're always in the top 10 of most
But-
cloudy areas in the country.
In a
So
similar
how did we
way,
get into this conversation when Chicken was describing something?
Somebody, we're all a bunch of squirrels here.
I think part of before we go any further, I think part of the problem is the connection itself with Zoom. So there will be delays between what somebody hears and what the next person hears. So they might not be interrupting specifically, but sometimes it's
distracting to see the. Is that a beach? I'm sorry. I'm just
Yes,
super.
but that's just the background. I can change
No,
it
I
if it
get it.
bothers people.
No, I was just wondering. That's all.
I just had to do it because I woke up to 3 inches of wet snow this morning.
In New York, there's snow.
Yeah, of course there's snow. I'm in upstate New York. I'm not
Oh,
downstate. I'm upstate.
I'm in
with the
Florida. I've
California
never seen
fog.
snow in my life.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
You're
know.
good.
Yeah, we have
You
more.
can come
uh,
take
to
it,
mail you
Ed.
some?
around here.
Anyway, Chicken, go ahead. You can continue on to your description.
Hi there. So basically, in a similar way that I sometimes will keep my game libraries synced up, you can do that with your email. If your devices are on the same network,
What name?
you can always create a directory on whatever machine it is and just have that directory accessible by the other machines on your network. So you don't have to constantly download it onto each and every machine. You could just access the mail that's already on one of your devices through linking. So that way you're not basically downloading the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, but that doesn't work for me when my machine is in Wisconsin and I'm in my truck in Kentucky.
Well, yeah, but I wasn't sure if that's what Rocco was. Is that your use case, Rocco?
No, that's not my use case.
Oh,
But,
okay. I was like, I missed that.
I think that, like I said, for me, I use IMAP. But what complicates this is I would think most of you guys, I know I do, have multiple email services too. So, I mean, you may have Gmail, and I got Fastmail, and there's GMX, and there's, I mean, you go down the list. There's Proton Mail, I got 2 of them. So it's like, that complicates things even further. I don't really want to use a web client because, I mean, not a web client. I don't want to use Thunderbird because I don't know. I'm just, I don't really care for the way Thunderbird does things, and I don't like the way it looks. Like
if you can find a client like Thunderbird that you like, what I just do is keep my profiles on a separate partition, the one that I symlink in to my home files. And since all my profiles for the email client are on that separate partition, whenever I do a new install, I install Thunderbird, but then I just symlink in those profiles and everything just comes up.
Have you guys tried Mailbird? It's actually a better variation of Thunderbird, and it supports POP, IMAP, and a bunch of other ones.
What's it called, John?
Mailbird.
No, I have not tried it.
Yeah, they have a free trial, 30 days, but you can, pay for a license. You can manage profiles. Also, Barbara, is your hair dyed or is that green screen? I just want to know. But here, I'll leave a link to Mailbird in the chat. Hold on.
Okay. The hair, I got tired of seeing my gray roots. And I dyed it.
Don't worry about it, Barb.
I know. It's
Hey,
like,
I think the hair looks great.
thank you. I like it. Made me feel better.
Well, okay, Dave. So the other thing that I have a problem with, like clients, and this isn't specific to Thunderbird either, because actually Thunderbird is probably one of the faster ones. But in trying to find a different client, I have huge sections of mail on the IMAP servers. So anytime I would reinstall, I would either have to symlink it like you do, or I would have to re-download all of those emails for all of those services. And that added so much extra time to reinstalls that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use the web client because then I don't have to download nothing. So yeah, those are real world email problems.
That makes perfect sense. That's why I didn't enjoy the distro challenges that forced me to use an older version of Thunderbird, because then my profile wouldn't sync up and I'd have to start from scratch. And I'm like, no, I am not setting up 16 email accounts just to start over. Not going to do it.
Yep. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Big Pod's had his hand up for longer than I have.
Sorry, I'm not paying attention. Big Pod, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that IMAP allows you to download and keep, and then you can set how much of it downloads. POP3 recently became ability of POP3 to just download and not delete. While on some, it actually puts it on Gmail, they say archive to put it on all emails, but on most, by how protocol was made, it is so it actually deletes it from a server after you downloaded the full message, which was normally downloaded when you opened it, while when you just got it, it downloaded the headers.
Yep. Well, you can go into the settings like in Thunderbird, and you can set it to sit there and, keep it on the server, or you can set it to download the headers immediately. Like I would actually have to go down into Thunderbird and change it so that it would download the whole message rather than just the headers, because I want to see those. Like if I go in, I don't want to have to wait to download them, so I would go in and make sure it downloaded the whole email.
Does Eudora still exist?
Does what does?
It's not maintained
Eudora.
anymore.
What was that?
I thought I saw something about it.
John, was that you that said it's not maintained?
Yeah, is it not maintained anymore?
I don't know.
I
don't think it is.
I'm not sure. I just remember from back
I haven't heard of it in a
Windows
while. I
NT
think it's
days.
discontinued.
But I knew it was structured after the way Unix handled mail with SendMail and stuff like that with the various. But that was supposedly a pretty good mail client. I have no idea, if people were still using that or what.
About 2006, it was the last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Qualcomm owns that now.
Yes, their final release was on October 11th, 2006.
Yeah. Okay. So
If you check out Mailbird and Thunderbird, I think Mailbird is a lot easier to use because you can save and load profiles directly. But I'm developing my own client that has SMTP, POP3, and IMAP support. That way you don't have to be switching between, what's better, what's worse. It's just all in one. I have a repo up right now, but it's private. I'll probably be releasing it soon, just to compete with Thunderbird.
How does it handle rules? That's what I'm because I'm finding that I don't really like the way Thunderbird does.
There are no rules. Can you give me an example?
Well, Thunderbird calls them filters.
Right. I'm still working on filters.
So I can say I want to take this. I want to take this email with this message, drop it into this folder, and stuff like that. That's something that I can't do on my phone. That's why I have it on my desktop.
So let's say the email contains the word NWKO, for example, your username, right? It'll drop it into a user-created folder, and then you can check it later. That's how the filters are set up right now.
Right. Yeah.
Is that what you mean? There's also patterns with it has regex support where you can basically search for patterns and you can drop them into subfolders as well.
Yeah, I mean, Outlook calls them rules, and that's basically how I organize my mail at work. But I mean, that's one of the things I'm looking for from a mail client is being able to automate a lot of the sorting and tedium of clearing out the spam and stuff like that.
I don't call them rules because I don't follow rules, but mostly filters. Filters is the right word, right?
Which is what
you're arguing semantics at that point.
No,
which is horrible.
Thunderbird does do that, and then of course it puts each one in a separate mail folder.
It doesn't do it well though. That's the thing.
And none of them do it well, actually.
Outlook does, and if I can get something that gives me the same functionality and same usage as Outlook on a Linux client, I'd be a lot happier. There's certain things about Outlook and Exchange that I don't like. like not being able to recall messages or
You
there's
essentially
some
just want to
calendaring
filter.
and stuff like that. Well, I mean that's my primary thing that I look at when I'm trying to choose a mail client is how can I filter? How can I automate my workflow so I'm not sitting have 200 unread messages in my inbox, you know. So
Yeah.
Colin, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wondered, what are you currently using, Rocco, as an email client?
I'm not using any. I'm using the web
You're not
clients.
using.
So I've
okay.
tried like MailSpring and a couple of the other offshoots of that, and LBRY, and most of them have an issue with the size of the accounts that I'm syncing. Is what most of the time I have a problem with. And Thunderbird is the only one that does it and does it well, but it's obviously, like I said, if you reinstall, it's really super slow to download all of those emails. So
why are you re-downloading? Given that the Thunderbird folder is, you can move it around, and from an old machine, if you're migrating from an old machine to a new machine, you can pick up that folder and move it across. And
good if you did backups.
Oh dear.
The other thing, I started to try to do that. I started to try to have one location for my .thunderbird file, and then I would distro hop to a newer distro that had a different version of Thunderbird, and it would look back to where I'd sim linked it and go, oh, this is incompatible with this version of Thunderbird. You're going to have to reinitialize it. How do you cope with those sort of scenarios?
You know how I get around
you're
that?
falling. Don't distro hop,
right?
That's
the
I run
answer.
into this because I'm an extreme hopper.
Hold on, stand by while I find him.
He's gone.
Thank
I think
you.
it was Josh something.
I couldn't move him out for some reason.
Apologies, everyone.
Well, was I
Don't let anyone else in, please.
Sorry, I was scrolling there. I got him.
What I was trying to explain is I ran into this with both Firefox and Thunderbird, but Thunderbird's a little more tricky, especially if you got a lot of mail, where you can't take your .thunderbird file and just plunk it in another distro and expect Thunderbird to use it anymore. They want you to upload all this to a Thunderbird account and then re-download it again in that fashion. But what I did find out is if I got a Thunderbird, let's say an older Deb package, like 557 or something like that, it would open it, and then the system would upgrade Thunderbird to the newest version, and then I would still have all my mail.
Well, see, the other issue I ran into with Thunderbird is not only, again, I mentioned the amount of email accounts that I have. So you say I have 10, 12, 13 email accounts. There's no specific way besides having that folder. There's no automatic way to import those accounts anymore. So I would have to re-put in those accounts, and then I would have to get the extension for Thunderbird so that I could sort those accounts in whatever way I wanted to sort them, rather than have them in the default way. So there's a lot of nuances that go in with why I don't really care for an email client. I love the idea of having all my emails in one place. It just never works out for me.
What's stopping you doing the right solution to this, which is actually have a backup? Because all of this story has come about because you said you don't have backups. So what is stopping you from going out and buying yourself a USB drive or a NAS or something and actually doing the right thing?
Nothing's stopping me from
do that then.
Okay,
there's my advice. Do that.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I was using Thunderbird and I got hacked, and I had a lot of private information in there. I strongly don't recommend the application to all of you guys.
But what was hacked? Was it the email service you were using, or was it your computer, or what?
Did you upload any files to the web server?
No, it was specifically my email.
But how did you get hacked?
Was your computer hacked, or was their email servers hacked?
The email servers were hacked. That's what I'm saying.
Then the client isn't going to change anything.
Yeah, that has nothing to do then with
is the fault of Thunderbird.
Well, how do you know the email servers were hacked and not your computer?
I don't know how they hack. I don't know how to hack.
Right.
But
I
how'd
was
you
going to
come
say,
to
I was going
Go
to say,
ahead, sorry.
Rocco, can't you use the application ICE and just use that to log into your email clients? Wouldn't that be a quicker solution than just opening a browser?
Well, I have a pin tab for all of the email that I want to check. So, but there's another point to this. Like I did recently, upgraded my dad's machine to, well, not upgraded it. We reinstalled Ubuntu Mate on it, and I tried to get his Thunderbirds, and he has a copy of his Thunderbird emails, and he's on POP. So I pulled the Thunderbird folder over, and it said that it wasn't compatible. Like Thunderbird would not recognize the folders that were there. It said it was incompatible with his version.
So that typically happens if you had your previous mail was on an older version of Thunderbird. Now, there's a number of things you could, on a newer version of Thunderbird, and you're trying to load them with an older version. There's two solutions to that. One is upgrade the version of Thunderbird to the version that it was built with. That's one way. Another way is to temporarily upgrade the version of Thunderbird to the version that you want. And then you can export the mail out and then install the version that you actually want, the older version, whether it's more stable or for whatever reason, or from the repos or whatever, install that one, and then import the mail back in again, because Thunderbird has an export and import process.
How many of you guys are actually programmers? Raise your hand. Okay, we got.
Professional programmer, or
You mean professional and as in
I
we get
guess
paid?
learning too works.
Learning versus programming.
I mean, you're
for-
always learning.
okay.
I
Yeah,
do it when
that's
I
true.
have to.
How many of you are into reverse engineering? Raise your hands. Only one, two.
Rocco, the other thing I have found that sometimes works is that when Thunderbird will set up a new profile, it won't let you pull it in. What I will do is then go in and just delete everything in that new profile and copy over into that new profile name everything from the old profile.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that works, but it still won't work if you're trying to put a newer version into an older version of the program.
To be honest with you, I don't know what the version was that he had. So he was on Peppermint, and I installed Ubuntu Mate. So it was Thunderbird on Peppermint, and it was Thunderbird on Ubuntu Mate. I don't know what the differences would be as far as version numbers were, but that's what I was trying to do, and that's one of the problems that I ran into. So I don't know.
Just use Mailbird, in my opinion, because it gets rid of all these issues you're talking about.
Mailbird is only available for Windows.
They have a Linux distribution somewhere. I've used it before in Ubuntu.
Yeah, I use Ubuntu and I use Mailbird, and I haven't gotten hacked so far.
You use Mailbird since when? Thought you were using Thunderbird.
No, I got hacked, so I don't use that anymore.
But you said the web servers were hacked. Why would you blame the client itself?
Listen, I don't know how hacking works. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. So, what's everybody been up to? We got plenty of more time to talk now that we lessened the distro challenge. So, what's everybody been up to?
Ruko, I got a question for you there, guy.
Ruko. I don't know who that is, but go ahead.
Are you the leader of this this meeting?
I am just a guy, but I did start the meeting.
He is our cult leader, yes.
Okay. How often do you guys do this? Because I'm trying to learn a little bit more about Ubuntu myself.
Well, we do this every Saturday night at 8:00 Eastern time.
What time zone? Oh, Eastern.
Okay.
So,
I joined before, but I would never speak, and then I just bought this microphone, which is why it was kind of loud. I need to buy a camera next so I can join you guys on there.
So the only thing that I ask from anybody that joins is that we keep it family friendly. So there you go.
Seems reasonable, you know.
All right. Again, what have you guys been up to?
I'm just creating some game hacks right now because the demand for one of these games is pretty high. Have you ever fiddled with hacking at all or no?
No. Not into
Are
that.
you against it or are you for it?
What it depends on what type of hacking you're talking about. Are you talking about hacking in games so that you can cheat in games?
Yeah, cheating. So for self gain.
No,
anything that's advantageous in multiplayer games.
No, I think that's
botting.
completely wrong.
I
Yeah,
think
and the
it's
best.
wrong.
The thing you need to do is you need to learn to play the game better.
What if you play the game but you just want to advance more?
Then learn how to play it better and play more hours.
Yeah.
I don't agree. I feel like it's more of a
I would
doggy
say
dog.
if it's like a single player game and you've already beat the game, it's fine. If you just want to play around, I hacked Skyrim just for the fun of it because I'd already beat Skyrim before.
Right.
And it's not hard. Console commands right there. Google.
But tell me, do you
Hacking
not?
Skyrim is fun, yeah.
Do you not want to feel the power over other people in a multiplayer game?
Yes,
Kinda like
No,
that.
the
because
point
that's
is you
wrong.
progress. You learn to play it, you learn to better play it, and you progress through levels. That's why levels are there for progression. So
What
you
if you
feel
beat 'em
better
all?
the time.
And if you
Then there's
use
nothing
cheats,
better to
you
get.
don't have power over them. The cheats have power over them. If you actually want power over them, you have to be better than they are.
But if he
Yeah.
programs the cheats, then
If I develop the cheats, then basically I have power over them. Is it not how it works?
No, just means you have power over the cheats, but cheats still are better than them. It's not you, because
Now-
you don't know how to play.
Right. That's in a player versus
I'm
player
gonna have
scenario.
to agree with Big Pod here.
That's in a player versus player scenario. Now let's see if it's player versus NPC. Right. If I have power over the game itself.
Now that's the other case where you're actually playing in single player mode, where you
Oh,
have
multiplayer.
so co-op scenario. Then it's still kind of lame that you're playing with cheats when everyone else is doing it the lame way of playing without cheats in your thinking. In my opinion, if you're gonna play a game, play it as it is meant to be played by your skills, not by the skills of a computer program.
I agree.
All right, Steve, what have you been up to this week, brother?
Not a whole lot. Just working. Did a little stream. What day was that? Tuesday. All these days are running together.
They're all running together right now,
yeah.
man.
How many days have you guys been home for quarantine? Everybody in here.
0. I haven't stopped working. Nothing has changed for me.
Weeks. Yeah, same here.
I have been home
Essential
for
worker.
2.5 weeks ish in quarantine.
3.
I've been home way too long. I've lost my mind.
Yes.
I haven't left my
12th?
house in 6 months, so.
Wow.
Paul, I'm
You're
lucky.
good.
I've never had a mind to lose.
You're good. For me, it's been a month, and thankfully, I can still go out because I have a forest nearby.
Well, occasionally I need to go out and dig through garbage cans to find some food.
I mean, I can go out and walk and whatever and go to the grocery store. It's about it. But gotta wear my mask. I'm in New
You
York
wear
State.
masks? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So I have a question.
Yep.
Next week's a free week, so maybe this is a bit of a homework assignment as well.
I don't like homework.
Well, this is fun homework. This is good stuff. Just to compile a small list of the things that you kind of self-host, if you will. So like maybe it's small, maybe it's something off the shelf, maybe it's something bigger, maybe it's like a Nextcloud instance, maybe maybe you have a NAS or like a Synology or something like that.
So I'm assuming that it doesn't have to be publicly available.
Not necessarily public available, but something you have that you host at home, and why do you do that? I mean, why do you trust that? I guess like necessarily over something else, or why do you go to the commercial thing, or over something that you can install on your own machine, that sort of thing. So if you could kind of like, I don't know, maybe a small list of 2 or 3 things that are your top items that you want to have control on, I guess, and what you and why.
Because I wanted to get the data files that I want access to from all my machines off of Google.
Yeah, no,
I got
that's
a Pi 3 and set up an own cloud server on it.
excellent example right there. So, I mean, so I guess it's a bit of a homework assignment. Kind of think about some of the things that you have, and maybe make a list and bring
Check it
back
twice.
and
Does
tell
it
us what
have
and tell us
to
why.
be program related, or
No, not necessarily.
could it
Can I
be
put my
like
homework in early?
like a life goal or something?
Yeah, so something you're thinking about doing, I guess that's also valid.
Of course you can, Zeb. That's why I snuck mine in.
Beyond, I guess that's preference, to be honest. It's whatever you prefer.
So that's
if we're allowed to go ahead and turn our homework in early, can I go ahead and do that too?
Didn't say
Because I
that.
can list it off.
No, I know. But that's my thing. That's my thought process there. I don't know.
How much time do we have left here?
About 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Roughly, yeah.
Dan, I had to use the bathroom when you're explaining. I only got to the end. Could you give me just like one task to do?
Yeah, just make a list of the things that you host at home for yourself. You know, maybe like I said, something on your network. And why do you host it?
But I don't have a network.
Well, it's not going to be for everybody, Dan. I
no.
don't have nothing that I self-host, so.
You think that though? I mean, I guess, but I mean, maybe it's something small that like maybe you have a Synology or something like that. That sort of thing.
And you want me to give it to you next week or what?
That's kind of my thought process. Since this week's a free week, you can think about the things you have and why do you have it, and yeah, that sort of thing. I see Big
Just so
Pot's
that
got
you
his
guys
hand
know
up.
as well, it's only a suggestion. It's not a you must do this.
Nope.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
All right, but I'm open for challenges. I think it's fair.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Big Pot.
How long must this list be? I can do a list.
I was thinking 2 or 3
quite
items.
a while.
Yeah, maybe
have
pick
a lot of stuff.
Pick 2 or 3 out of that list, and why are those towards the top even, right? Which things matter the most to you?
Could you write down this list and send it like a pastebin or drive link or something?
There's a
Have it as
discourse
a
channel
reference.
that we have. It might be a good idea, Dan, to start a little.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Just be easier to have like a checklist.
I can do that. I'll make a forum post.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Eric.
For those of us with kids at home that have been either doing homeschooling or what have you been doing? Are the schools giving you assignments? Are you coming up with things for them to use for learning? I just signed up for a subscription for my daughter. It's an online math and science. They kind of gamify it, so it's still knowledge, and she still has to answer questions, but she gets pets, and it's a fun thing. Have folks come up with interesting things? My sense and my experience has been that a lot of companies that deal with children's software in particular are not particularly scrupulous. They're pretty terrible. To sign up for that software, I had to go through 5 upsells to say no.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that. No, I don't want that. Just to get through to be able to sign up. So
that's because everything's a
can I-
marketing strategy.
Eric, can I ask a question? As a teacher, I'm going to ask this question. I substitute now, so I don't have to do any of this. But the district that I work for, all the they went to online learning. They actually still have to prepare lessons, or they can take the lessons that they already have for stuff that they normally teach and make it so that it's online available. They use Zoom, they have actual, classrooms, virtual classrooms, but that's what we do. I don't know. It depends on the state. That's what New York State is requiring of all teachers, so that the parents don't have to go and find, what's a good thing for my 7-year-old and my 17-year-old? Because there's so many different types of a lot of stuff for the little kids is garbage. But that's what it depends on the state. I don't know what state you're in, But New York State, I know they have to really provide an online virtual version of the normal classroom environment. The only thing that they have a problem with are science labs. That's the one thing that there's no way you can get around it, really.
Okay.
So I don't know what state you're in.
I'm in
So,
Florida. Yeah.
okay, so they may not be as
Well, she's at a private school, so they've switched to using Zoom. And I actually found something today called Big Blue Button,
Mhm.
which is an open source project that actually looks like a really nice online classroom.
Oh, okay.
As an alternative, because Zoom, you know, obviously you can record meetings and stuff like that, but this incorporates like a whiteboard and you can record the sessions and
What's that called again? That
Big
sounds
Blue
really
Button. Yeah.
I just wrote it down.
It's actually really, I mean, it's an open source project and you can host it yourself. You need a fairly decent server. I think they say like 8 gigs of memory. So probably a $20 droplet, that type of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you could support up to 150 people on that single server, like simultaneous connections. So, and it, like I said, instead of just the problem with Zoom is that it, you know, you're sharing your camera. It's for her, it's a bunch of second graders and none of them mute properly. And it's just chaos.
Yeah,
And
that's different. Yeah.
This looks more like a learning management system that has video and audio built into it, but you can do much more with it from like that learning standpoint. Everybody's just gone to Zoom because it was free.
Yeah.
And I think it works for a lot of situations, but it's not ideal for everything. And so
Doesn't Big Blue Button have Moodle integration, or Moodle have Big Blue Button integration?
yes, it does. Yep.
Okay, because I know a lot of colleges have Moodle instances running.
Yeah.
So if we could get that in their hands and let them know that that's a thing and it's open source, so they don't have to pay for it, I think that'd be something that if this were to happen again in the future, which statistically speaking, it will happen, maybe not in our lifetimes, but it will happen. There they go. They're prepared already.
Well, and just to have something in place that, so everybody, I think, jumped to Zoom because it was the easy solution. It was just fast to say, okay, we can get everybody up and running. And this does take some amount of setup. Dan, you said this is something you've heard of?
Yes, I've heard of Big Blue Button. We also, so like Thomas brought up, we have Moodle, and that has a lot of different plugins, not just not just Big Blue Button, but you can do Jitsi or you know, a lot of it, I think it does Zoom as well. So Zoom is kind of, a lot of people gravitated to it because it's just kind of easy. It's pretty simple interface. Everybody has, you know, you click a couple of buttons and bam, everybody's in a meeting. But because of the simplicity, it probably opens up the door to a lot of the compromises and whatnot, right? So
It does.
security is not always convenient, and convenience isn't always secure.
And
so yeah.
the architecture and the hardware framework that a lot of the districts have
Right.
can't handle a whole lot. They're not necessarily that up to date. They crash a lot. I think BOCES does a better job
Yeah.
for the schools that they cover than do some of the actual other districts. And the thing that, like, Zoom is good with high school students. I wouldn't want to use it with little elementary school or
Nope.
even middle school, because they're, you know, little kids aren't going to get the whole idea of muting and all that. The high school kids, it works pretty well with. But I would, you know, and I think Moodle would be good too. But what
Yes.
happened is the schools were thrown into this.
Yep.
All of a sudden, boom, they had to do online learning. They don't have the people who know how to set up something like Moodle.
Right.
Now, the university
true.
system, the SUNY system, uses Moodle.
Yep. We
And
do.
they could always get somebody from, you know, get a grad student to come over and set it up, because, you know, we've got, you know, Binghamton University right here.
Right.
But they, you know, this is something that they were just thrown into. I think they have to really think about this for the future.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, say what you want about Google, but our district is pretty lucky in the sense that they already had a lot of Chromebooks and Google integration in the classroom. And so the students were fairly used to using that. So, I mean, the comfort of being able to just jump right in and use what you already have has a lot of benefit as well. So,
Yeah.
Alan,
And-
you mentioned, sorry, Alan, you mentioned something on Ubuntu podcast about your daughter is using certain, what is it they're using?
Yeah, so my daughter's finished school now. She's in her last year, not quite finished because they didn't get to do their exams, their final exams, so they're a bit up in the air at the moment. But for dance classes outside school, they've turned my lounge into a dance studio. So she has her laptop on the fireplace, and they use Zoom, and the dance teacher teaches all the girls how to, do their moves, whatever they are. I don't know. I'm not an expert in dance, contrary to popular opinion. And she does all the dancing in the lounge. But Sam, who's 13, they use Microsoft Teams, and they have spun up rooms for each class, and they give them work to do and a really tight deadline to do it. So it's not like they're just given a lot of work and they can do it in a hurry at the end of the day while they're playing games all day. They give them tasks that they have to do within an hour, just like they would get if they're in a classroom. And they have an iPad that they use Microsoft Teams with, and they don't do any video calls at all. They just do text chat, and so they all have to go out and get a keyboard for their iPad. And I just gave him one of my Bluetooth keyboards. But it's a bit rough, but I think they've been on vacation for the last 3 weeks because of Easter, and on Monday they go back, and I think they'll have improved it somewhat.
So just to get this straight, we're gonna start using a blue button for the meetings now, or?
No. It was just a topic of discussion about a particular subject. But just to go back, Alan, I think I disagree with you not being an expert dancer, because you do a really good flounce.
Yeah.
So
the flounce and the hand waving emoji on Telegram.
So there's a couple of different aspects there, right? I mean, you have the video aspect that the schools are kind of struggling with a little bit, and then you have the homework assignment and the text chat and all of that, and getting it all integrated into one nice package is kind of what a lot of schools are struggling with, I guess. So
Go ahead, Big Pod.
Yeah, Big Pod.
Well, here I'm a student myself, and I manage a system for two little kids that are in elementary school. And here, when they actually have classes like normal, they just don't have what's called the presentation by their teacher. They just get either emails or they have to access Moodle to get the assignments, and they have to do them and they have to be done by the time school ends. It's no like they get for in the morning, they get for all the classes, they get the assignment. They have to do it at the end of the school day, and they're quite strict about it. Anyway, and for us, we had at first Zoom and I believe Adobe Connect, I believe it's called, meetings. Then we all at my school graduated to Teams because of the Microsoft Forms. We could do like really tight integration with and do exams that way. I actually am finished with all my exams for the year, and I have done all through the Teams or Moodle. Where the problem rises for us is the whole internship. We for my school, I have to do 3 months of internship, 1 semester of internship at a company, and because of the lockdown, we cannot do it, which is now a big problem for the whole country, and nobody knows if we will have to do them or not, and it's gonna be quite a ride for us. But most probably I'll have to still do 3 months of internship, even though it might be in the next school year, before I can actually do the final paper and get my diploma or the paper that I finished school.
All right. Dan, you had your hand up.
I think Vince had his up before mine.
All right, Vince, go ahead.
Yeah, we can talk about options for schooling, but are we not really just beholden to what your kids' schools are doing? I mean, unless we're sort of working in the school system, I'm not quite sure how much say we're going to have. My daughter's 7, and her school, just as all the shutdown happened, they weren't really prepared. So what they were initially doing was sending home paper packs. So we got mailed out a paper pack of work, which is kind of cute. But now I found out since talking to a teacher that they're going to be moving to Google Classroom, which, unbeknownst to us, they'd already been learning to use in their computer lab at school. And at this point in time, she's going to know more about it than my daughter, that is, know more about it than I do. So I'm going to have to go out there and learn it myself. But with these alternatives, you have to have some sort of influence in the school system to really implement them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have a little inside knowledge because I work at a college. So, I mean, so I know what tools and technology they're using there. But yeah, you ultimately have to, I mean, the average parent is probably not going to know one tool from the next because they've had no experience with it.
And another thing that is, I've found Zoom to be even more capable than we might even, realize, because my daughter, with her music lessons, she does private lessons as well as like group classes. And the first time she joined it, I was kind of thinking to myself, oh, I know Zoom. I'll probably show the teachers a thing or two. But lo and behold, this teacher of hers was an absolute pro. He was running it through a Mac, and he had 2 cameras set up. He had one camera for his face and another camera for the piano keyboard. And so he was switching between them, showing her things, and using the digital whiteboards to draw notes and things like that. That's a fantastic feature of Zoom that's underutilized.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and I think a lot of the confusion is there's so many choices out there too. It's not, you can't know them all, and you can't know all the features of all of them to really compare them well, I think, is part of the problem. So yeah, there's probably a lot of unexplored things that people don't know. I know our district here for my kids, they did they had like 2 days where the teachers, because they were on break, they actually came back from their break early before the students did, so that they could prepare while they were on break and learn some of these technologies before they had to roll them out. So they sort of extended the school break a little bit, and then did some homework on their own as teachers, and then rolled them out. So I think, given the haste of it, I think they did the best thing they could. That's my
That's
opinion.
one thing. Props to all the teachers out there who are learning all this stuff for the first time and are doing a really great job.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
And props to teachers in general who are being told, okay, it's coming up in the UK to the 6 weeks holiday, but if this thing is still going on, then all of those teachers are going to have to still go to work to look after the key worker children's. So big
not all of them.
props.
Some of them.
Well,
what,
but it's like my wife is. So she now does every Monday and Friday on call because the head teacher has split up the teachers there. But even so, having to work through what you would normally be your 6 week, 7 week break period,
Well,
I think it's great.
part of
You're
why they're
lucky.
doing
My
that,
wife
like
got
here,
fired.
they even got rid of, they didn't even have the kids go on the spring break like they usually do, because they didn't want them to, and this was a I think, I don't know when your kids, Dan, went on break, but here what they did was, since they were all going in April, they didn't get a break because they were afraid the kids would all get together because they had nothing to do. They didn't have to be in school, so to speak, and then that would be one of the problems of passing on the COVID-19.
Yep.
So both the teachers and the students actually worked all the way through the break, and the teachers were a little bit ticked by it, but we all understood why.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, our kids were on break the week before.
Yeah, you're lucky then.
So they just kind of extended it a little bit, and then the teachers came in and did some did some huddling and they worked on it. I think, yeah, definitely a lot to learn in a short amount of time for them.
And then
So
we
that's
had the
great.
problem here that we do have a significant number of rural poor kids, families.
Yep.
So the schools and even the state, if the school district didn't have enough of them, they were able to get them from the state. The school was giving out to kids, to the elementary school, and I guess I don't know about the preschool, but I know at the elementary school kids, they were getting iPads. And for the middle schoolers and high schoolers, they were either getting Chromebooks or regular laptops. And also, I think Spectrum and the cell phone carriers in certain areas where there was normally no Wi-Fi access, they were putting in free hotspots so that, because we have a lot of people, a lot of kids who the only internet they have is their phone.
Yep. Yeah.
So they were putting in, if they didn't live in the city of Binghamton, which already has free community Wi-Fi, they were putting in hotspots all over the county for especially
thing
the
here.
rural areas.
Yeah, same thing here. And we actually set some up on campus too, like at parking lots, so people could come and just pull in with their car and their kids or kid or whatever, and you can download your assignments and upload your assignments and do that sort of stuff from a distance, if you will, but conveniently in your own place. So and I think the high schools have done that too and whatnot. So
and I think they really did the best that they could with said, it was like one day they're in school and then boom, all of a sudden you have to have all your lesson plans set up to be online. So I think they did the best they could.
Dan Kelly, you wanted to add something? You're muted.
You're muted, Dan.
Okay, thanks. I think for the most part, Barb and you guys just answered my question, because like you go 8 to 10 miles north of me, there is no internet whatsoever over there. There is not even cell phone service, and the telephone wired service is just barely good enough to do audio. So you're saying that you actually have to drive somewhere to get your homework and then drive home, and okay, you answered my question, I guess. Thank you.
And they're also, we have Broome County Transit. So we do have actually like a bus service, regular, just like public buses. So that, and some of the kids, their parents don't have cars. And they can actually get a bus. And I think they were trying to work out some way for those kids who really couldn't get anywhere and they were really stuck out in the boonies to somehow manage to get them where they could have access.
Yeah, I don't have any children in school or anything like that, so I wondered how they handled situations in that case.
So some of the schools around my area, maybe not my district, but I know some of the districts, their school buses actually have Wi-Fi on them.
Yep. We do that here too.
And one of the bigger cities, Charlotte, actually, I heard a story how one of the bus drivers took the bus to like a public parking lot somewhere and let the students know, and the students that didn't have Wi-Fi were able to come to the bus. They weren't able to get on the bus, but they could just like sit outside the bus in their parents' car or whatever, and they could get on the Wi-Fi and do their homework. So I think that's pretty cool, actually.
Charlotte actually had 3 or 4 buses that did that.
3 or 4 buses.
All right. Alan, I got a question for you. Are you ready to talk about the new show?
Sorry, I took my headphones off just as you asked me a question. So maybe that was good timing. I don't know.
Are you ready to talk about the new show?
The new show?
Yeah, the new show.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. The new show. Yeah.
The new show. So I guess user error is being sunsetted. And
apparently I've not been told. Nobody told me. I found out when Joe got fired. So for those of you who don't know, myself, Daniel, and Joe do a little stupid podcast called User Error, and Joe no longer works for JB, so he can't make User Error. So we've been deliberating about, in fact, we had a feeling this might come, so we've been deliberating about what we do if this day came. And when it did come, we were chatting, and we decided we'd carry on doing it, but just not under that banner, which is difficult because Joe's out of work now. So, he's no longer a salaried employee. I know this is a problem that many people face. And so the amount of time and effort that he was putting into User Error, doing the production and all that, he's now doing in his own time. So I think we'll set up a Patreon kind of thing for it. And, if people want to throw some coins in there, that'll be great. And yeah, we have been trying to come up with a name for it for a little while, and then
so I submitted a DM because the Twitter account said ask questions, right? And so I submitted a DM to ask, like, which one of you guys came up with a name? Were you like sitting around?
Now you said that, I can't tell you because I've got to save that, and you'll have to listen to the new show to find out how that happened.
I just picture you all sitting around saying, what are we going to call the show? We have no idea. And just like out of like sheer frustration, you just say, all right, we'll just call it the new show.
I'll tell you, 66% of the presenters were fully on board with the new show as soon as it was mentioned. 33% were not on board with this.
I'm sure
when
I know who that was.
When the baseball stadium naming rights were sold here in Milwaukee, the TGI Fridays restaurant that was in it got renamed to a restaurant to be named later. That is the actual
really?
name of it. Yep.
Well, and this is not. There's also precedent. I know the one of the Tested podcast. There's like Still Untitled with Adam Savage. I think that's still a title.
And bringing it slightly back on topic, Ubuntu, before it was called Ubuntu, was called No Name Yet. And if you went to nonameyet.org or .com or something, that was where the canonical homepage was. And then in mid 2004, when the name Ubuntu came about, No Name Yet then redirected. I don't know if the domain still exists. It may well do. But yeah, it seems to be a common thing. Naming things is hard, it turns out.
It really is.
And, yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's a show on YouTube, like there's a channel called The New Show already. So it's so hard to come up with some kind of name. I did put a link in the YouTube chat for the new.show, which is the web address. And in there,
Thank you.
It's not like you guys submitted it to Apple Podcasts, but it's not completely through yet. So I couldn't find it. Go ahead.
You have to have an episode in the feed. And so there's a whole load of things that need to happen before you can just say it's on iTunes. And so obviously we had to think of the name first. We had to argue about what web platform we were going to use. And someone had to design the logo, and we all had to argue about the color of the logo and which font was used, which was more time spent. And when you've got a designer on board, that makes things a lot easier. Also, all I had to do was offer opinions about which one was better. I didn't actually make it.
So is the first show going to be you telling us about all these nice little arguments? Because I bet they were some fun conversations.
Well, you'll have to listen and find out. But episode 0 was just Joe announcing it so that there'd be an episode in the feed, because iTunes won't let you submit a podcast without
Gotcha.
already in the feed. So
instead of user error, it's going to be user arguments.
Well, I don't think we ever argue. I think heated discussion, maybe. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So,
but you can, like, I couldn't get it through Pocket Cast just by searching for it. But at the new.show, you can. There's a link for the RSS feed, and you can put that in your podcast player, and that will grab it.
It's in Pocket Casts now. I just found it.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I'd like to say as well that, like, I started listening when you three got together for the reboot of User Error, and like the three of you make a great team. Like, I listened to it when I was working, and I was standing on my feet for like 6 hours, and I was nearly crying of laughter, and no one knew what I was listening to, so they just thought I was crazy. But it's a very, very enjoyable trio, and I'm really glad that you guys did this.
That's very kind of you to say. Thank you very much. I'll pass that on to the guys. That's very good. Yeah, we'll see. So JJ asked, can we not reclaim? It wouldn't be right to try and get the name. I think it's better to have a fresh start.
Yeah, I agree.
People kept asking us, what's the new show going to be? And people didn't realize we'd already chosen the name and registered the Twitter account and the domain. And people were asking us in Telegram channels, and we'd say, oh, you'll have to wait and find out what the new show is all about. And we kept saying it over and over again. If you look back, you'll see all of us saying the new show in various Telegram channels, but not actually not capitalizing it or anything, because that would have given it away.
Yep. Well, just so you guys know, I did remove some people just because it was getting too much, and I didn't I didn't want to have what happened earlier happen again. So there you go.
Thank you, Rocco.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have 9 minutes left. Now, see, every time I asked earlier what you guys been up to, some people talked. So what have you guys been up to?
Well, I've been sitting here doing some general maintenance on my computer, and I kind of remembered I did something last time I was on here, which was my Unix command or Linux command of the day, and I've got to tell you, there's two of them today that I've been using greatly. That's df and du. Df for it'll show you what each partition is and how much size it's taken up on your disk. And du is disk usage, and that'll actually list from wherever you're set as a root directory. So if you're in your home directory, it'll list everything that's in your home directory and what the sizes are of those particular files.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's the --hash on DF makes it human to read it rather than just having this big long string.
Exactly, and it'll cut it down. It'll say like 2.5 M or 1.2 G, for gig and megabyte and stuff like that. It's really handy commands.
Hey Chris, if you get a chance, try NCDU.
NCDU. I'm not familiar with that one.
NCDU is the best terminal command ever.
Yeah, very much.
So tell us what it does, Bill.
So it's a ncurses command for disk usage, and it'll show, and you can go through, you can actually just move in the terminal with the keys between directories. It is awesome. You can delete files. If you're going through and you're seeing you have a lot of disk usage, you can just pull it up. It'll show you where the disk usage is. You can go right in, delete the files. It's awesome for administration.
I have to look at that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. NCDU is great for if you're running out of space in your home directory and you want to know what's eating up all your space. You just run NCDU and it scans the entire directory beneath wherever you're sat. So you either just run NCDU and it'll be wherever you're sat, or if you run NCDU and then point it at a folder, it will scan that folder. It takes a while to scan if it's a lot of files, and then it presents an interface which shows the biggest folders at the top. So you can just drill down on the like if you're running out of space, it's great for like drilling down on the thing that's the most, the eating all your space, and you dive on that one and then drill down, and you can just press delete and delete things directly from NCDU. It's really good.
Is that all you type is NCDU at the prompt and it does that?
Yep. That's
Thanks
it.
for the tip. I actually learned something tonight.
Excellent.
Isn't that the idea?
Well, that comes in handy when you play a lot of Steam games. You want to see which games are hogging up your hard drive.
I did that 10 minutes ago, like before we started this, on that machine there, because it popped up the little box that said your disk is running out of space. Do you want to ignore or examine? And I thought, I'm not going to use a GUI. Open the terminal, NCDU. Oh, look, it's my Steam folder. And I had to delete a whole bunch of...
It's always the Steam folder, every single time. Which not really surprising, considering a lot of video games that are like higher end games these days are, 40, 50 gigs. But
actually, for me, it's not my Steam folder; it's my ISOs folder.
Yeah,
you need to delete some of those?
Especially now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I see Shickle's got his hand up.
Hi, I'm Shickle. So I've recently, I know I talked to you guys about me switching to Firefox and using DuckDuckGo and things like that. And I did a little bit of experimenting with some different stuff. And I'd just like to say thank you for your suggestions. I'm still working my way through the list of things to use. But they're all very fascinating solutions. I've set up some Nextcloud instances, and I'm trying to fiddle with the calendar system with that. So hopefully it gets all sorted, but I appreciate that.
Nice. Well, so I did something that was like not probably recommended. But I did anyway because it was a test machine.
Tell me something we don't know, Rocco.
So
that all the time.
So that laptop
Did you back
back
up
there,
first, Rocco?
I did not.
Did you back up
because
first?
there's nothing on there.
No,
I
but he
need.
did accept the pixel that was out of place.
So that laptop is just a test machine basically, and it really has nothing important on it. And it runs Pop OS, and I tried to upgrade to the beta of 2004, and I put the command in, and it said it was doing stuff, and then it just hung there for like hours. So I kind of like just killed that, and then tried to do it again, and it hung there. So I rebooted. Everything was up to date before that, so I had made sure everything was up to date. I rebooted, came back in, and it still shows on being 1910, and then I run the command to do the upgrade, and it says there's nothing to upgrade. There's no release to upgrade to. Like, there's no 2004 beta there to update to. So I don't know what happened, but...
Have you tried... in the System 76 guys have a Mattermost chat thing. I don't know if you're in there.
I am.
Or if you've been. Okay. I think it's chat.popos.org or something like that.
Yes.
Something like that. But there's a ton of people in there, and they're really good for getting technical support on Pop OS, and the developers hang out in there as well. So it's a good place to go and ask technical questions. And
well, I didn't think it was
answers.
like, I didn't want to like bother them because it wasn't like a serious like machine. Like I said,
Dude,
like
if they're busy, they're not going to answer you. And there's plenty of other people in there. I've seen like other community members giving people support in the System 76 chat. So if you're running Pop OS or you have a System 76 machine, I'd lurk in there. You know, it's just like it looks like a web-based IRC, you know, with emojis and stuff. It's very easy to use.
Yep, I've been in there.
Yep.
So I don't know if anybody else knows about this, but last night I learned about a security vulnerability in the kernel. I don't think it's going to affect the latest Ubuntu release, but it's specifically in the 5.4, 5.5 kernel, and it's with a thing called BPF. I'm not going to go into what it is. It's just basically it's a fancy thing that allows it to monitor your system usage and network filtering. So I would suggest everyone check your kernel version and look up what the kernel version that this affects is. If you're on the 5.7 kernel, you should be okay. And if you're on the Quarks kernel, you should be okay. But don't take my word for it. Check, because I am not a kernel developer.
Also,
yet.
I would check the CVEs or like security notes for the specific distro you're on, because sometimes the version number may not change, but they still patch like fixes in from newer versions. So depending on the distro, you might want to be.
Just so everyone knows, this is CVE 2020 8835.
You type that in the chat, because like,
will do.
I can just about remember I live at number 34, let alone that big string of numbers.
So, Rocco, can I mention a thing I've been doing this week?
You can surely mention a thing.
I've been shooting Marty Wimpress in the head and smacking him about the head with a spade in a game called Open Spades, which is hilarious fun. It's a great way to unwind in the evening.
What is this game about?
So it's there was a game many years ago called Ace of Spades. It's on Steam, and someone made an open source implementation of it called Open Spades. And there are a whole bunch of these open source implementations that speak the same protocol, can connect to the same servers. You get on a server, and typically there are two teams, like blue and green or red and white or whatever. and it's typical like catch the flag kind of thing, or dominate the space or something. And the key mechanic with this game is you carry a spade with you, and you can destroy the world around you. It's voxel based, and you can destroy the world around you, or build blocks to build barricades, or dig tunnels to the other person's base. And you're basically two teams, and you have to kill each other with your various weapons. There's 3 different weapons plus the spade, because you can bot people with a spade. And there's an open source server called Pique, Pique, and I installed it last week on a server, and it's a public server now, and loads of people jump on it, and we play, and we've got a Discord, and it's just quite good fun to jump on open spades and just destroy the world around you, build barricades, shoot people, and keep on doing that over and over and over again. it's like hours and hours.
So if somebody wanted to get into that, where would they go first?
So I created a website called Popey Spades, which is about my server. But Open Spades is available as a snap. It's also available for Windows and Mac. I think it's in the AUR maybe. But I'll post a couple of links in the chat. It doesn't need particularly beefy hardware, but it's quite good fun. And it's a nice way to unwind at the end of the day. With Martin being super busy with the release coming up, he wanted a way to unwind in the evening. So I was happy to facilitate this by shooting him in the head a few times from the other side of the map. It was great.
And has Brian put you up to this? And it's one of those pixelated things.
No, it's not. It's like Minecraft in that everything is a square, and you can like place blocks and stuff, square colored blocks, but they're just single color voxels. They're not textured or anything, so it doesn't look like 8-bit kind of art. It looks old because it is based on a 10-year-old game,
right?
For sure, yeah.
Super fun, and it's really easy to get into, and then get shot a load of times and then rage quit. Or
plus you're playing with people too, so that's a plus.
Well, it's an open server, so randos do jump on there as well. You can put a password on the server as well, but I snapped the client like 2 years ago. So if you go to snapcraft.io/openspades, I made that, and then I discovered this server, so I made a snap of that. So now I've got a snap of the server running on a box somewhere and a snap of the client on my laptop, and everything's great.
Very nice, very nice. Well, on this weird night of Biddle, probably the weirdest Biddle that it's been in I don't know how long, we're out of time. So everybody gets the last word. PZ, last word.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for turning up in these troubled times and making a wonderful evening of conversation. Even though we did have a few numpties to deal with, but hey ho, it all added to the fun.
Sorry.
Look,
we're not talking about the normal Popey and Daves that we have to deal with. We're talking about
we're not talking about your and I forgot. flouncing out of the seat. Yeah. I really hope that Ghosty is still in the chat and he can make a little snippet of that for us for YouTube. But everybody keep safe. Thanks for everybody turning up. It is my favorite show of the week, and you are all much loved. So keep safe. See you next week.
Dan, last word.
Thanks as always, Rocco. Been a busy evening here, but always good time to talk with you folks. So thanks for that. Looking forward to an exciting 2004 release coming up this week. I'm excited. Hopefully everybody else is too. So that's me.
Definitely excited. And I love the beard, Dan.
Thanks.
All right, David Jones.
Thanks, Rocco, for putting on another interesting evening. Today was one to remember. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to trying out all the Ubuntus when they each of the flavors when they get released next week. I've been trying the betas, but it won't be the same until the final version gets out. So I can't wait.
And it nearly got even more interesting for you, Dave, because if I hadn't recognized the name, I was just looking at Wham Geek thinking, who's this? Let's boot him out.
All right, Barbara, last word.
Okay, I want to thank obviously not just Rocco and Dan and Zeb and everybody, but I want to thank everybody else who was here tonight, who's here now, that it was good, because I think we really all do need this. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for making it a good evening.
Yep. Alan.
Yeah, I'm stuck in the house. We're on lockdown, and I'm basically sick of the sight of my family. So it's lovely to come in here and see you guys, a different set of faces. So thanks very much, everyone.
All right, Tony. First word, last word.
No distro challenge. What am I going to do?
Well, you can fake it and we'll just pick one. Somebody pick one real quick. Eric, pick one real quick.
Tony,
Linux from scratch.
You have to try the Pop OS 2004.
There you go. Tony.
Or Deep in 20, which just came out.
We have about 5 minutes left between the last words, so that's what you got, Tony.
I tried the Deep in beta already.
Pop OS, go. Do it.
Wait, like just now? Like just now you tried it?
No, not just now.
No, that was 5 minutes ago.
Pop OS, I can't get a download for it.
Oh, we'll put it in the chat for you.
It keeps giving me an error code on their site.
Oh.
Really? Because I pulled it down about 2 hours ago.
Where did you get it from?
Their site.
From their site? I couldn't get it from...
I'll get you a link, Tony.
And I tried it from Distro, whatever it's called. I can't remember now. It's too early in the morning.
It's a perfect name for it, Distro, whatever it's called now. Yeah.
And I couldn't get it to download from there. But I am running Ubuntu 20.04 budgie at the moment, and it's working fine for this, and it's not put a foot wrong in 2 days, and it's really looking good.
Yep. Dig it.
But anyway,
Tony, what do you think about the new menu?
I love it. I never liked the old menu. That was one of the things I didn't like about it, and the new menu is brilliant. Other than that, glad to see everybody here this week. Shame we had a couple of little issues, but, you know, it's life. The show goes on. Long as everybody keeps well and stays safe till next week, I'll be a happy bunny, and I hope to see you all then.
All right. Dan Kelly.
I want to thank all the producers of the show for the fine job they come up and do every Saturday night. And since I cannot safely get a haircut anywhere, I decided to grow a wig for somebody. So until this virus is over, I have no choice. Somebody's going to get a new head of hair out there.
Right?
Probably a cancer patient. But thank you all for showing up and being here. And that's all I have to say.
Big Pod.
Thank you guys for having me. And I don't know what to say. This week I decided to do Fedora from scratch, basically Fedora from server to desktop. So that was fun, and will be fun next week on Monday.
All right. Nate, last word. Okay. Steven, last word.
Thanks, Rocco. Thanks, everybody. Had a good time. See you all next week.
Chris, last word.
Okay, just real quick, gonna put a shameless promotion in here. Got a new video up. It's ham radio related, not Linux related. Sorry, but you can get over to my channel by doing YouTube /user/Kellingc, I believe. And that I'm also playing around with a couple microvaxes. I was thinking about throwing Ultrix on there, but I might try to throw maybe something a little more Linux flavored if I can find something for that architecture. So other than that, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and see you next week, God willing, and that we're all healthy enough to not spread the virus onto the computer.
Tom?
Just thank you.
All right. Colin.
We got to fix this Zoom, man. I don't know where I am in the chat anymore.
Got to be ready at all times, Colin.
Thanks, Rock and Co. And yeah, I'm growing my own week too, but failing miserably at this point in time. But good chat. I had to go out of chat for a little while tonight. I had received a phone call, but must have missed a little bit there. I missed the 2 people getting kicked off. So
yep,
it was a good chat anyway. What I was involved with. Take care, everyone. Have a good week, and see you all next week.
Larry.
Me?
Last word, brother.
Sorry for talking your ear off tonight.
I know, right?
Yeah, I am using Ubuntu Mate 20.04. I like it. Good job, guys. Got it going right now. That's what I'm watching on. Have a good evening.
All right. Simon, last word.
Well, thank you very much for the stream, Rocco, and thank you to Zeb and Dan, Eric, and Bill for all the help that they provide. Thank you to everybody in the chat, everybody else in Zoom. You guys are a wonderful and great community, and I love being here. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco and crew, for providing this space and guarding the bridges against the trolls. Thank you all for being the family I need in these times, and we will see you next week.
Chicken.
The alphabet is not a toy. The alphabet is not a game. The alphabet has one specific order. Know that order, and you will know the alphabet.
It's called Google.
That's wisdom right there. Paul, last word.
Yeah, I just want to give a great thanks to our host, Ruku.
Yeah. You're so welcome, Paul. Vince, last word.
Thank you so much, Rocco and team. Love being here every single week. Hope to see you all next week.
Steve, last word.
I use something you might know, peppermint. No. Thanks for a very interesting evening, guys. I'm doing a show in the morning. If you're up, come stop by. But Rocco, you did let 2 more trolls in.
I did. The last 2, we got to get to them, though.
Yeah. Take care, buddy.
Harris, last word.
Thank you for the show, Rocco and all. And looking forward to Ubuntu.
Thomas, last word.
Well, thank you, Avatar Roku, for letting me on. Other than that, also thank you to all the healthcare workers and people like Food Bank Guy for feeding everyone in need and taking care of everyone who's sick. Wash your hands, wear your masks, stay home, don't get sick. Let's flatten this curve. Have a good one. Be safe. Yeah.
Bill, last word. All right. Eric, last word.
Couldn't get the button. Thanks, Rocco, for the stream. I know I certainly need it. Sorry for being late. And I'm glad to see everybody is doing well. And I hope to see all of your faces again next week.
JJ, last word.
All right, guys, hang in there. Keep safe while this pestilence is going around the world. Also, I want to keep you guys in mind that we have a post show after this. So if anybody wants to keep talking, you can keep talking.
Speaking of trolls, Kevin.
Oh, wow. We made it all the way down to me. No, I want to say, everybody get ready for the 3 Bs. Bigger, better, badder, biddle. Wait, that's 4.
That's 4, dude.
I'm confused. We'll see y'all next time. Everybody stay safe.
Adam.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the show, everybody. It's good times. By the way, I apparently I do live streams, so if you want to sub to me, that's fine. But yeah. Thanks for the show. Good times.
Well, they need a link in the YouTube chat for that.
It's not happening.
They need a.
It's my name. Come on, guys.
They need a link, dude. Make it
Okay.
easy for them.
All right.
Okay. All right. That is going to wrap it up for us this week. This is a quote unquote free week for anybody who wants to try anything they want to. And we will reconvene back here next week at the same time, same bat channel. All right. It's going to wrap it up.
Wait, did I miss something about this coming Wednesday?
Oh my gosh, you're right, Steve. See, this is why I have people here, because otherwise it would never be right. This past week on Linux Spotlight, I sat down with Drew DeVore, and that was an absolutely awesome conversation. This coming Wednesday, I sit down. Well, I actually sat down a long time ago with him, but I'm still editing this episode too. It is Shane Kitt from Linux Lads podcast. And we had a great conversation talking back and forth, but there was a lot of connection issues, so there might be a few more transitions than normal.
So, you sure that's not language bleeping issues?
No, because I would definitely put the clown horn in, but I didn't have to put the clown horn in once, I don't think, yet. So, but there was a lot of drops and everything, so yeah. So that'll be there, but I think it'll end up being a really good show. I think you'll enjoy it. Now that's over with, we will see you guys next week. We are officially closed for business. And until then, long live Linux.
Take care,
Stay
everybody.
safe.
Bye.
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 Remember, Grizzly Adams needs subs.